Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, it's all about VeriSign. You know, the folks behind those little .com and .net things on websites.
Yeah, the ones you kind of take for granted, but they're actually super important.
Right. It's like they're quietly running the show behind the scenes. And their latest earnings call, well, it gave us some pretty interesting insights, like hints about potential changes to how much we pay for domain names. And a look at those companies that actually sell us those names.
Yeah.
GoDaddy and all them.
Plus, VeriSign's had this insane 27-year streak of keeping websites up and running without a single outage. How do they do that?
Seriously, I mean, longer than I've been alive, for sure. So, to kick things off, let's talk business. How does VeriSign make money? What's their deal?
Okay, so their whole model is built on being the exclusive registry operator for .com and .net. Basically, they hold the master list of who owns which domain name.
So, like a global landlord for website addresses.
Exactly, and every time a domain gets registered or renewed, they collect a fee. Simple but effective.
Makes sense. But we're talking huge scale here, right?
Oh, absolutely. Hundreds of billions of transactions every single day. Every time someone types in .com or .net, VeriSign is involved. Behind the scenes, they've got this crazy network of data centers all over the world. And they've built their own systems, too. Custom stuff, designed to be as reliable as possible.
Which explains the whole no outages thing. 27 years. It's mind-blowing. How did they even pull that off?
Well, lots of factors. They've got backup systems, always ready if something goes wrong. And their engineers are top-notch, constantly monitoring things. They even build a lot of their own hardware or software. Apparently, the off-the-shelf stuff just couldn't handle what they do.
Wow. Seems like they've thought of everything. But there's a plot twist, right? Their domain name base actually got smaller last quarter. What's the deal with that? Is their business model in trouble?
Great question. And it gets to some interesting stuff happening in the whole domain name world. A big factor is how these registrars are acting companies like GoDaddy that sell names directly to us. They seem to be all about profit over growth right now.
So instead of getting tons of new customers, they're trying to get more money out of their existing ones.
Exactly. Raising prices, focusing on reselling domains, especially premium ones. GoDaddy actually said they make over $100 million every quarter just from reselling those fancy domain names.
Dang, that's a lot of cash. But what does that mean for VeriSign?
Well, even though GoDaddy's rolling in it, they're not exactly pushing a ton of new registrations for VeriSign. More like shuffling existing domains around, not adding new ones?
So VeriSign's growth is being held back by the very companies selling their product. That's wild.
It is. And there's another thing, China's economy slowing down. China was a big growth area for them, so that weakness hurts their numbers.
Okay, so challenges from both the sellers and the global economy. What are they doing about it? Just watching their domain base shrink?
Nah, they're not passive. They've been making new marketing stuff, trying to give those registrars reasons to sell more. More options for pricing, packaging, hoping it'll make them focus on new customers again.
I got to track those newbies. But it sounds like it's taken a while to get going.
Yep, some delays. Takes time for those registrars to work these new programs into their systems, their sales stuff. Now, VeriSign's saying they don't expect growth to come back till maybe late 2025, even later.
Playing the long game. Hoping those registrars will have to find new customers eventually to grow their own business, right?
That's the bet. VeriSign thinks this focus on high prices is temporary. Eventually, it'll flip back to attracting new folks.
Speaking of flipping things around,
Yeah.
there's a big player we haven't talked about yet, the U.S. government.
Yeah, now things get really interesting. VeriSign's actually talking with the NTIA about maybe regulating .com pricing.
Hold up. The government wants to control how much we pay for .coms. Why?
They're worried about these rising prices and what it means for people and businesses, especially small ones. Worried that high prices will make it harder for new businesses to get online. Want the internet to stay accessible, affordable for everybody.
So, VeriSign's in a tough spot. Registrars focused on profit, the government potentially on their case, and the global economy isn't exactly booming. How are they handling all this?
Well, they've got a pretty strong financial position, lots of cash on hand, and they've been buying back their own stock, giving value back to shareholders.
We even had a listener ask about that, wondering if they'd consider going into debt to buy back more stock.
Good question, but based on what we heard, I don't think so. They seem pretty conservative about money, prioritize stability, avoiding big risks. Probably why they've had that crazy uptime record for so long.
So no gambling with their finances, even if it means buying back less stock.
Exactly. They're thinking long term. Gotta be ready for whatever comes their way. Economic downturns, government stuff, who knows?
This is all super interesting, but let's bring it back to our listener. What does this mean for the everyday internet user?
That's the key, right? These talks with the government, they could really change how much you pay for domains in the future. If the NTIA decides to step in and control prices, domains might get cheaper. But who knows? It could have other effects too, maybe less innovation or lower quality service from those registrars.
So there's a lot at stake here. For VeriSign, the registrars, the government, even us regular internet folks. Complicated stuff, no easy answers.
You got it. And that's what makes it so fascinating to follow.
Yeah.
One thing's for sure, though. VeriSign's main thing, managing .com and .net, it's super stable. Those are like the foundation of the internet. They're not going away.
Okay, that's good to hear. But those challenges we talked about, registrars wanting profits, possible government action, how could that affect VeriSign down the line?
Well, the registrar thing is kind of two-sided for VeriSign. On the one hand, yeah, if registrars are squeezing more money out of the domains that already exist, VeriSign doesn't grow as fast in the short term.
Right. Fewer new domains being registered, like we said.
Exactly. But on the other hand, it shows how valuable .com and .net are. People are willing to pay a premium for them, which is good for VeriSign eventually.
So fewer domains overall, but each one is worth more.
Right. And that fits into VeriSign's long game. They're not just waiting around. They're putting money into new tech, new services that make those .com and .net names even more valuable.
Like what kind of stuff?
Well, they're looking at things like better security to protect websites from hackers and tools to help businesses manage their whole online presence better. Things that make .com and .net even more attractive, which could push up demand and prices.
So they're betting on .com and .net staying important, making them even more essential in the future as we use the internet more and more.
That's it. And then there's the government regulation. Hard to say exactly what'll happen. Could mean cheaper domains, which sounds good for us, but could also slow down innovation or make those new services from VeriSign harder to invest in.
Tough balance. Government wants cheaper domains, but doesn't want to mess up the internet's growth either.
For sure. And that's where VeriSign's reputation for being reliable, stable, that helps them. 27 years, they've shown they can handle this important internet stuff. Gives them a lot of weight when they're talking to the government.
Sounds like they're in a decent spot to handle all this.
I think so. Financially, they're solid, got a long-term plan, and they really understand this market. Plus, they can adapt, change as the internet changes.
Okay, but let's bring our listener back in. What's the takeaway for them?
Yeah.
For someone just trying to get how all this affects their internet use.
Here's the thing. Whether you're starting a business, building a website, or just browsing around online, you're relying on VeriSign every time you type in a .com or .net address.
They're making sure you actually get to that website.
Exactly. And these decisions being made right now by VeriSign, the registrars, the government, it'll affect your online experience in the years to come.
So should we be worried?
Not necessarily. VeriSign has a reason to keep the internet working well. Their success depends on it.
So they won't do anything to mess that up?
I doubt it. More likely, they'll work with everyone involved, try to find solutions that are good for everybody.
That's reassuring. So what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember today? What's the big message?
Biggest thing, even something as simple as a domain name, it's actually part of this huge, complicated system that's always changing. And the choices companies like VeriSign make, the governments that oversee them, has a big impact on all of us who use the internet.
Like a reminder that the internet isn't just some abstract thing out there. It reflects the choices we make, the values we have as a society.
Right. And the more we understand how it all works, the better we can navigate it and help shape it for the future.
Well said. I think it's about time to wrap up this deep dive into VeriSign. Hope it's been insightful for everyone.
It was great talking about this with you. Always interesting to look at these behind-the-scenes parts of the internet.
And to our listener, thanks for being here. Hope you learned something new and maybe got a little more curious about how the online world works. Until next time.